Good day, learners. This is your accounting teacher, Sir AJ, and welcome back to my channel. So, for today, we will be discussing another topic in financial accounting, and we will be discussing inventories in accordance with past 2. So, let's start with our discussion. So, as what I have mentioned earlier, we will be discussing past 2 inventories. So, under this standard, we will be talking about first the scope of past 2 and at the same time the definition of inventories in accordance with the standard. So for the definition, past 2 defines inventories as assets, number 1, held for sale in the normal course of business. Ito yung mga inventories that are ready to be sold or what we call the finished goods inventory. Under this definition also is number 2, yung mga in the process of production for such sale. We call this the work in process inventory. And letter C, those in the form of materials or supplies to be used in the production process or in the rendering of services. Ito naman yung ating raw materials inventory or yung ating manufacturing supplies inventory. Please take note guys that yung supplies dito is different from the supplies account that we know. The supplies account that we know is yung mga supplies na ginagamit natin for administrative purposes. But if yung supplies ginagamit natin for production process, then it is considered to be part of your supplies inventory, which form part of the definition of inventory in accordance with past 2. For the scope of the standard naman, past 2 applies to all inventories except the following. So number 1, hindi nag-a-apply ang past 2 sa financial instruments because they are under the standard PFRS 9. Number 2, they do not relate to biological assets related to agricultural activity. For biological assets, they are governed by the standard PAS 41. And finally, yung mga agricultural produce at the point of harvest. Take note at the point of harvest. So at the point of harvest, yung mga agricultural produce ay considered to be governed under PAS 41. And then next is for the following, yung past 2 nag-a-apply sa kanila except yung measurement provisions. We will know later that inventories are measured at lower of cost and net realizable value. So as to that provision in past 2, hindi po yun i-a-apply to the following. Number 1, yung mga producers of agricultural and forest products, agricultural produce after harvest, and minerals and mineral products. For these companies, they use their industry practice of measuring these inventories. And pangalawa, hindi rin lower of cost or net realizable value kapag ikaw ay commodity broker trader. So kapag broker trader ka, the measurement that you use is fair value less cost to sell. So again, for these two companies, nag-a-apply ang past 2 pero hindi yung measurement provision. So that's for scope and definition. The second thing that we will discuss is about the recognition of inventory. The general rule guys, kapag i-recognize natin ang inventory sa financial statements is number 1, they should meet the definition of inventory. So either sila ay finished goods, work in process, or raw materials and supplies inventory. So that's the first general criterion. The second criterion is the legal title is already obtained by the buyer from the seller. Take note that yung inventory ay marerecognize mo lang sa iyong financial statements kapag meron ka ng legal title sa kanya. So as to the transfer of legal title, we have some considerations that we need to take note in making decisions as to whether or not recognize inventory. So the first consideration is yung mga goods in transit. Ito yung mga goods that are yet to be received. So nasa ano pa sila, nasa daanan pa sila, on the way pa lang sila sa inyo. So as to goods in transit, we have two terms. No, meron tayong FOB shipping point. Pag FOB shipping point, that means from the seller to the buyer, the ownership already transfers upon shipment. Ibig sabihin, kapag in transit yung goods, tapos FOB shipping point, ang may-ari during transit is already the buyer. Kasi the ownership was already transferred nung shipment pa lang. Pangalawa is FOB destination. As to FOB destination naman, ownership transfers only when the goods are received. Ibig sabihin, kapag in transit yung goods, habang nasa way pa lang siya, the owner of the goods ay yung seller. Because the legal title will be transferred to the buyer only when na-receive na yon ng buyer. So please remember FOB shipping point at FOB destination. So always remember also that kung sino man yung owner during transit, ibig sabihin pag FOB shipping point, ang owner during transit ay buyer, at FOB destination, ang owner during transit ay ang seller, the owner during transit should pay for the freight. So, ibig sabihin, pag FOB shipping point, you will expect na sa books ni buyer, meron siyang i-record na freight in, which is capitalized sa inventory. While sa FOB destination naman, you will expect sa books ni seller na meron kang makikitang freight out, which is an expense account or para siyang delivery expense. So again, the owner during transit should pay for the freight. What if yung ibang party ang nagbayad? So kapag yung ibang party ang nagbayad pero ikaw yung the party that should pay the freight, then you should reimburse the other party kasi siya yung nagbayad para sa'yo. The second consideration that we need to take note ay yung mga consigned goods. In a consignment, guys, meron dalawang parties. Meron tayong consigner at consignee. Yung consigner is the true owner of the goods. So, si consigner, siya talagang may-ari ng goods. Anong role ni consignee? Si consignee yung nagbebenta ng goods. So, transfer sa kanya or dineliver sa kanya ni consigner yung goods para ibenta ni consignee. But take note that ownership is not transferred in this situation. The consignee is only there to sell the products. Pero hindi niya yun binili from the consigner. Therefore, for consigned goods, it is included in the consigner's inventory. Kasi siya naman talaga ang totoong may-ari ng goods. And number 2, the transport cost, yung cost ng pag-transfer ng goods from the consigner to the consignee, and other incidental costs are capitalized to the cost of consigned goods. Consideration number 3 is about pledged inventory. So kapag plinedge mo yung inventory, that means kapag hindi mo nabayaran yung utang mo, then the creditor can go after this pledged inventories. Kasi yun yung parang ginawa mong parang mortgage, no? Or yun yung ginawa mong parang assurance that you will really pay the credit. So, pag pledged yung inventory, what will happen is there is no transfer of ownership. Again, hindi mo binigay sa kanya yung inventory. It's just that kapag hindi mo mabayaran yung utang mo, then kukunin nila yung naka-pledge na inventory. So since there was no transfer of ownership, then yung pledge inventory is included in the borrower's inventory. Okay? And it's only disclosed in the notes na yung certain inventory na yun ay naka-pledge. Number 4 consideration is about layaway sale. Ano tong mga layaway sale? Etong mga layaway, for example, pumunta ka sa isang jewelry shop and then bumili ka ng, kunwari, ng isang necklace and then ni-layaway mo siya. Ang ibig sabihin nun is, yung goods will be delivered only to you when you already made the final payment in a series of installments. Ibig sabihin, you cannot own the good until you make the full payment. So, pwede mo lang kunin yung goods kapag nabayaran mo na in full. So, that means, habang hindi pa siya nababayaran in full, the inventory is still included in the seller's inventory because hindi pa na-transfer yung ownership. Kailan lang matatransfer yung ownership? Upon full payment. And finally, number 5 is yung bill and hold sales. Ano naman tong mga bill and hold sales? This is a situation wherein the goods are still in the possession of the seller. Kasi nga hold. Pero binil niya na yung sales, meaning the control of economic benefits are already transferred. It's just that hinold niya muna yung goods sa possession niya, siguro pipick upin lang ng buyer. So in this situation, kahit nandun pa yung possession kay seller, the economic benefits and the title is already transferred. The ownership is already transferred. So in this situation, the inventory is already included in the buyer's inventory. So let's have a practice of the recognition of inventory. So for example, Bharat's company reported 5 million pesos of inventory on December 31, 2019 based on physical count. Take note, physical count. That means yung mga nasali lang sa 5 million is yung mga nandun sa premises ng company. So kapag wala siya doon, ibig sabihin hindi siya nasali sa physical count. Additional information is as follows. Letter A, goods sold to a customer on December 31, 2019, which are being held for the customer to call at the customer's convenience with a cost of 150,000 and included in the count. Letter B, excluded from the physical count were goods billed to a customer, FOB shipping point on December 31, 2019. The goods had a cost of 200,000 and had been billed at 350,000. The shipment is ready for pickup by the delivery contractor on January 15, 2020. Letter C, goods were in transit from a vendor. The invoice cost was 300,000 and goods were shipped FOB seller on December 31, 2019. Letter D, work in process costing 400,000 was sent to an outside processor for finishing on December 31, 2019. And letter E, goods out on consignment with sales price of 1 million and markup of 25% on cost. Shipping cost amounted to 50,000 pesos. The question is, what is the correct amount of inventory on December 31, 2019? So kapag ganito yung mga problems, the first question that you need to answer is, for a certain situation, what is your role sa transaction? Are you the seller or are you the buyer? So let's take a look at each of the additional information isa-isa. Letter A, goods sold to a customer on December 31, 2019, which are being held for the customer to call at the customer's convenience with a cost of 150,000 and included in the count. So take note, tayo dito yung seller. So ito yung ating chain of thought. The first question is, was this included in the count? The answer is yes, kasi nga included daw sa count. Pero take note that hinawakan mo tong inventory but it was already billed to the customer. So question number 2 is, should it be included? The answer is no. This is an example of a bill and hold sales. Kapag bill and hold sales, then ang magre-recognize na ng inventory ay yung buyer. Since we are the seller at this situation, hindi na natin dapat in-include yon sa inventory. So it was included but it should not be included. Then there should be an adjustment. The adjustment is we will deduct this amount because it was included but it should not be included. So let's go to letter B. For letter B, Excluded from the physical count were goods billed to a customer, FOB shipping point. Again, your role here is you are the seller. On December 31, 2019, the goods had a cost of 200,000 and had been billed at 350,000. Take note, if you are adjusting the inventory, the amount that you are trying to look for is yung cost, no? Hindi natin kukunin yung selling price or yung billed amount, but yung cost. And then the shipment is ready for pick-up by the delivery contractor on January 15, 2020. Take note, guys, that kahit na binil mo na siya sa customer ng FOB shipping point, at December 31, hindi pa siya nasi-ship because the shipment will happen on January 15 pa. Ipipick up siya ng delivery contractor on January 15. So question, was it included? No. In-exclude daw siya from the physical count. Should it be included? Yes, because the goods were not yet shipped. Iba ang situation kapag na-ship na to. Pero as of December 31, hindi pa siya nasi-ship. So, atin pa yung inventory. So, should there be an adjustment? Yes, and we need to add. Kasi hindi siya na-include, pero kailangan siyang i-include. So, we add 200,000. Letter C, goods were in transit from a vendor. So, take note, in this situation, tayo ang buyer. The invoice cost was 300,000 and goods were shipped FOB seller on December 31, 2019. So first question is, was this included? No, because it was in transit. So dahil in transit siya, imposibleng na-count mo yun. Question, should it be included? The answer is yes, because para hindi kayo malito, ang FOB seller ay equivalent sa FOB shipping point. And when FOB shipping point, sinong may-ari during transit? Yung buyer. Yung company natin, yung buyer sa situation na to. So, atin na yung inventory during transit. So, should there be an adjustment? Yes. And we need to, again, add the cost of 300,000 pesos. For letter D, work in process costing 400,000 was sent to an outside processor for finishing on December 31, 2019. Was this included? No, because nasa labas siya, nasa outside processor. Should it be included? Yes, of course. It is a work in process inventory. So should there be an adjustment? Yes, we need to again add the 400,000. And finally, for letter E, goods out on consignment with sales price of 1 million and markup of 25% on cost. The shipping cost is 50,000. Goods out on consignment meaning ikaw ang or tayo ang consigner. Was this included? No, kasi nasa labas siya. Nandun siya kay consignee, hindi siya na-count. Should it be included? Yes, because tayo ang consigner. Will there be an adjustment? Yes, we will add. But the question is how much? This is the computation. So, the selling price is 1 million pesos. Kapag markup on cost 25%, yung cost ay 100%, so yung selling price 125%. So meaning, if we divide it by 125%, the cost, yung 100% is 800,000 pesos plus the shipping cost of 50,000, then ang total cost ay 850,000 pesos. So, to summarize everything, the unadjusted amount of inventory is 5 million. For letter A, our adjustment is deduct 150,000. For letter B, we will add 200,000. For letter C, we will add 300,000. For letter D, we will add 400,000. And for letter E, we will add 850,000 pesos. So, ang adjusted amount ng inventory on December 31 is 6,600,000 pesos. So that would be for recognition of inventory. Our next topic is on the measurement of inventory. So according to PAS 2, initially, inventory should be measured at lower of cost or net realizable value. Pero take note, initially, parang hindi pa naman natin na-measure ang net realizable value or NRV. So ang gagamitin na lang muna natin ay yung cost. So what comprise cost? Cost comprise the following. First, yung mga cost of purchase. Purchase price, import duties, and other, take note, non-recoverable taxes and transport, handling, and other costs directly attributable to the acquisition of finished goods, materials, and services. Take note, ang kasali lang po dito ay non-recoverable taxes. Value-added tax or VAT is an example of a recoverable tax. So pag recoverable ang VAT, hindi po siya capitalized. So ito lang po yung mga capitalized, yung cost of purchase. Pangalawa, capitalize din yung mga cost of conversion. If you are a manufacturing entity, ito yung mga cost of conversion mo. Direct labor, variable production overhead, fixed production overhead. And finally, part din ng cost, yung mga other costs. But only to the extent that they are incurred in bringing the inventories to their present location and condition. So yun po ang mga kasali sa cost. Ano naman yung mga hindi pwedeng kasali sa cost? Ang mnemonics natin ay SASA. S, storage cost. So, immediately expense yung storage cost unless yung storage ay necessary in the production process before a further production stage. Meaning, before you proceed to the next process, isa-store muna siya. If that is the case, then capitalizable yon. Pero technically, yung storage costs or generally, storage costs are immediately expense. Number 2, letter A, abnormal amounts of wasted materials, labor, and other production costs. Pero, kapag normal yung waste, then capitalized yun. So, ang immediately expensed lang ay yung mga abnormal amount of wastage. Number 3, letter S, yung mga selling cost. And number 4, administrative overheads. So, yung apat na yan, excluded from cost. Subsequently, we measure inventories still at lower of cost or net realizable value. Net realizable value is computed as follows. Estimated selling price less estimated cost to complete and estimated cost to sell. So lahat yan estimated because you are trying to look for a future amount, no? So yung selling price niya in the coming months, yung cost to complete niya in the coming months, and yung cost to sell niya in the coming months. Take note that when you have a write down or mas mababa yung NRV, then you write it down item by item. So hindi po siya whole inventory or total inventory basis, kundi inventory by inventory basis. And you only base it on the most reliable evidence available at the time the estimates are made. Finally, subsequently, inventories are not impaired. Hindi po siya subject sa past 36 impairment of asset. Why? Because measuring it at the lower of cost or net realizable value is already an implicit impairment. So parang nag-impair ka na, kaya hindi na necessary na i-impair pa siya ulit in accordance with past 36. So let's practice a problem for measurement. Lunox Enterprises is a retailer of Italian furniture and has 5 major product lines: sofa, dining table, beds, closets, and lounge chairs. At December 31, 2019, quantity on hand, cost per unit, and NRV per unit of the product lines are as follows. So for sofa, the quantity is 100, cost per unit 50,000, NRV per unit 51,000. Take note, for sofa, ang lower ay cost. So walang write down. For dining table, quantity is 200, cost per unit is 25,000, NRV ay 22,500. So mas mababa ang NRV. So in this case, merong write down. For beds, 300 yung quantity, cost per unit 75,000, while NRV per unit is 80,000. So mas mababa again ang cost, walang write down. So ang ginagawa natin item by item, hindi po by total. For closets, quantity is 400, cost per unit 37,500, and NRV per unit 38,000. Mas mababa ang cost per unit. Therefore, walang write down. And finally, lounge chair, the quantity is 500, cost per unit is 12,500, and the NRV per unit is 10,000 pesos. Mas mababa ang NRV, so for lounge chair, merong write down. So how do we compute the valuation of the inventory at December 31, 2019? So we do it this way, item by item basis. So for sofa, mas mababa ang cost, so that would be 50,000 times yung quantity 100. Yung LCNRV or lower of cost or NRV is 5 million. Dahil mas mababa ang cost, walang write down. For dining table, mas mababa ang NRV, which is 22,500, times the quantity 200, so that would be 4,500,000. And take note, yung cost nito ay 25,000. So from 25 to 22,500, meron tayong write down na 2,500 per unit. So dahil may 200 units, so 2,500 times 200, ang write down po natin ay 500,000 pesos. For beds, mas mababa ulit ang cost, so that's 75,000 times 300 units. LCNRV is 22,500,000. Again, walang write down kasi mas mababa ang cost. For closet, mas mababa din ang cost na 37,500 times 400 units, that's 15 million. Walang write down because mas mababa ang cost. And finally, for lounge chair, mas mababa ang NRV na 10,000 times 500 units, that's 5 million. Take note that the cost of lounge chair is 12,500. So ang write down po natin ay 2,500 per unit. I-multiply natin yun ng 500 units. Ang write down natin ay 1,250,000 pesos. So ang total valuation ng inventory is 52 million. Yun na po yung LCNRV. While the total write down is 1,750,000 pesos. Yung magiging adjusting entry natin is for the write down. So ang adjusting entry natin is debit, cost of goods sold, 1,750,000, and credit inventory, 1,750,000, to record the write down of inventory to its net realizable value. So ang ating last topic for this video tutorial is yung about sa mga cost formulas. So there are 3 cost formula that we can use. First is specific identification. Kailan natin gagamitin to? It is used when inventories are not ordinarily interchangeable. So kapag yung inventory mo ay unique sa bawat isa, then you can use specific identification. For this cost formula, costs are assigned separately for specific projects. So, kapag naman interchangeable ang ating inventories, we can use first in, first out or FIFO. In this situation, inventories that are purchased first are sold first. Or, it's a matter of choice. Kung ayaw mo ng FIFO, you can choose weighted average. For weighted average, the cost of each items is determined from the average cost of similar items. When you change from FIFO to weighted average or vice versa, that's a change in accounting policy to be accounted for retrospectively. So let's have an example. The following information was available from the inventory records of Thamus Company for January. Balance nung January 1 is 3,000 units at a cost of 9.77. You purchase new units 2,000 at a cost of 10.30. Then nakabenta ka on January 7 ng 2,500 units. Bumili ka ulit noong January 26 ng 2,700 units at a cost 10.71 at nakabenta ka on January 31 ng 4,000. If you add the purchase and deduct the sales, so 3,000 plus 2,000 minus 2,500 plus 2,700 minus 4,000, ang natirang units sa'yo at the end is 1,200 units. The question is, compute for the cost of goods sold and ending inventory under FIFO and weighted average. So let's start with FIFO. So for first in, first out, for the cost of goods sold, take note na kapag 1,200 yung natira, then yung nabenta natin is 6,500. The first one that we sold ay 2,500 units, tapos yung pangalawa, 4,000 units. So pag FIFO, ang mga unang nabenta ay yung mga galing sa mga unang nabili. So saan galing yung 6,500 units? Una, yung from the beginning inventory na 3,000 units times 9.77, that's 29,310. From January 6 purchase, meron tayong 2,000 doon. So times 10.30, that's a total of 20,600. So from this to 5,000 na yan, so yung 1,500 na natitira is galing na doon sa pinakahuling purchase mo. That's from the January 26 purchase, 1,500 times 10.71, that's 16,065. So ang total cost of goods sold mo ay 65,975. For the ending inventory naman, yung 1,200 units, galing to doon sa pinaka-recent na purchase, which is yung pinakahuli or yung 10.71. So if you just multiply that, 1,200 units times 10.71, that's 12,852. So that's how you compute for FIFO. For weighted average naman, you first compute for an average cost. So to do that, the beginning inventory is total 29,310. Yung January 6 purchase, 20,600. And yung January 26 purchase, 28,917. Ang total cost of goods available for sale ay 78,827. If we divide that sa total number of units ng inventory mo, 7,700, yung average cost per unit mo ay 10.24. That's the cost per unit that you will use in computing for cost of goods sold. So, just multiply it sa number of units sold. So that's 6,500 units times 10.24. That's 66,560. For the ending inventory, that's 1,200 units times 10.24. That's 12,267. So, that's how you do it sa FIFO at sa weighted average. So, I think that would be all for this video lecture. Now, it's your time to test your knowledge. Again, if you know the answer to these questions, just type your answer in the comment section and we will reply kung tama yung naging answer mo or yung naging computation mo. So, question number 1, which of the following is included from an entity's inventories? Letter A, goods received under consignment sale. Letter B, goods purchased under a bill and hold sale. All requirements under PFRS 15 are complied with. Letter C, goods sold where large returns are expected. Or letter D, all of this. And question number 2, on December 20, 2019, Esmeralda Company purchased goods costing 100,000 pesos. The terms were FOB destination. Some of the costs incurred in connection with the sale and delivery of the goods were as follows. Packaging for shipment, 2,000 pesos. Shipping, 3,000 pesos. And special handling charges, 4,000 pesos. These goods were received on December 31, 2019. In the December 31, 2019 Statement of Financial Position, what amount of these goods should be included in inventory? A, 100,000. B, 104,000. C, 107,000. Or D, 108,000 pesos. So if you know the answer, comment your answers down below. So that would be all for today, guys. Thank you very much for listening and for watching this video. I hope that you learned something today from this video tutorial. If you have questions, you may contact me sa aking mga social media accounts. So that would be all for today, guys. Sa lahat ng mga hindi pa nakaka-subscribe, please do subscribe to my channel. Please like, comment, and share this video and hit that notification bell para maging updated kayo kung meron akong video na pinopost. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!